Hello everyone, thank you so much for watching this lecture series. This is a continuation of the lecture series that we have been having about international relations. In this particular class, we are discussing about balance of power. When we study power, we have studied the term power, or in international relations or international politics, power is defined as struggle for power among nations or between nations. I repeat, international politics is defined as struggle for power among or between nations. In international relations, yes, it is a struggle for power between or among nations, but it is not all about struggle for power, struggle for maximizing power. It is also about states seeking to cooperate with each other, seeking to limit the power by using various mechanisms. State seeks power, but at the same time, as it is written here, states seeks power, but at the same time, these also seek to preserve peace through effective management of power in international relations. Unmanned or uncontrolled struggle for power is a source of danger in international war, because this may lead to war or big-scale war in the international arena, as a result of which nations and countries will come together and will adopt various mechanisms, various strategies and techniques to control or to manage this power. One such strategy, one such device to control power in international relations, one such device to manage conflict in international relations is the balance of power. Having seen the background about this, let's try to understand what is balance of power. The term balance of power has been described by many scholars. We will see the definition given by Sidney P. Fay in the beginning. Let's see. He defined balance of power. Just give me a second. Let me adjust this. Okay. He defined balance of power in this way. Balance of power is such a just equilibrium of power among the members of the family of nations as will prevent, mind these words, as will prevent anyone of them from becoming sufficiently strong to enforce its will upon others, so as to contain any other group, any other nations, to impose or enforce its will upon others. That's the definition given by Sidney P.F. Then we move on to further definition, another definition given by Lord Castlereagh. He defined it as balance of power means, and this is a good definition, means the maintenance of such a just equilibrium. See, mind these words. Just equilibrium between the members of the family of a nation as should prevent any one of them from becoming sufficiently strong to impose its will upon the rest. So balance of power, in the ordinary sense, it means that there is at least enough equilibrium, rough equilibrium between all various nations, and they will do this by containing or controlling the power of others. They won't like any major power to become a powerful country. Otherwise, if a country becomes very powerful, then they may not in a position to maintain the balance in international relations. I'm just reading out from the book Prem Arora, International Relations, International Politics by Prem Arora, and the other book that I am referring is International Politics by K.K. Kai, and there is another book which I have just left on the table out there. It is International Relations by, I think it's V.L. Malhotra. You can refer to these three books to discuss about this particular topic that we are discussing. I'm going to read out from Prem Arora's work, International Relations, and it states, the balance of power in the ordinary sense means there is at least a rough equilibrium of power between various nations. Equilibrium of power between various nations. The concept of equilibrium has been taken from the field of mechanics and is being put to use in many other sciences such as physics, biology, economics, and sociology. No nation can live in isolation. What they are trying to say from all these discussions that we have had is, in international relations, state will try to balance each other and to establish just equilibrium, to establish the equilibrium. When this equilibrium is not maintained, it may lead to war, or it may make a particular nation very powerful, as a result of which the balance of power that has been or will be or had been existing may be destroyed. That is why they were referring about the importance of balance of power. Balance of power, nature and features. Let's see some of the natures or features of balance of power. Some sort of equilibrium in power relation. That is a brief definition about balance of power. The term balance of power suggests equilibrium. Equilibrium means same level, equal playing field, equilibrium, which is subject to constant, ceaseless change. Though it stands for equilibrium, it involves some disequilibrium, just equilibrium, some sort of equilibrium. So what is this equilibrium? What is just equilibrium? Just equilibrium means, yes, there is equilibrium, but there is some sort of equilibrium in international relations. I think that's the first point. The first feature of international relation here is some sort of equilibrium in power relations. The term balance of power suggests equilibrium which is subject to change. It is not constant. It is always evolving, always changing. As power itself, or as the interest of nation itself is changing, the balance of power will also, it's not just equilibrium, it says some sort of equilibrium. So it will be changing constantly. In short, though it stands for equilibrium, it also involves some disequilibrium, as we have stated here. Some sort of disequilibrium. It also involves some disequilibrium. That is why scholars define it as just equilibrium or some sort of equilibrium in power relation. In other words, what they are trying to suggest here is there is some sort of disequilibrium also. It is not just about all equilibrium. There will be disequilibrium, and that is why they use the term some sort of equilibrium in international relations or just equilibrium in international relations. The next point is temporary and unstable. In practice, balance of power always proves to be temporary and unstable. A particular balance of power survives only for a short period of time, and another balance of power is needed in order to maintain the balance, in order to maintain or cope up with the constant changes in international relations. It is temporary and it is unstable. It is always changing. The next point is to be actively achieved. Balance of power has to be actively achieved. Has to be achieved by the active intervention of man. It is not a gift of God. State cannot afford to wait until it happened. They have to secure it through their efforts. And in order to maintain balance of power, in order to achieve this, state has to be actively engaged in it, either by means of alliance, by means of various techniques, which we will discuss, by means of alliance, by means of creating a buffer zone, by policy of divide and rule, by intervention, by alliances and counter alliances, by armament, disarmament, by means of compensation, with various mechanisms. State must be constantly engaged in the balance of power politics. In order to secure this, state must actively involved in it. The next point is it favors status quo. Balance of power favors status quo in power position of mature powers. It seeks to maintain balance of power in relations. However, in order to be effective, foreign policy of balance of power must be changing and dynamic. Balance of power favors status quo. Yes, it favors status quo, which means in order to maintain the balance, you must not change. Now, if you maintain this balance, then it does not change. But if you decrease one, if you take out one country, then this may become, and the other bloc may increase in international relations. It favors status quo, yes, no doubt about it, in power positions of metro powers. It seeks to maintain balance in their relations. However, in order to be effective, in order to be effectively engaged in power relations, foreign policy must be changing, because the national interest of a country is also constantly changing and it's dynamic. And to do this, as I have stated in the previous point, nation must be actively involved in it by various techniques, various means, like armament and disarmament, creating buffer states, by means of by means of alliance and counter alliances, intervention, by policy of divide and rule. All these techniques we will be discussing in the subsequent classes. With that, we move on to the next point, that is the test of balance of war. Balance of power is war. The real balance of power seldom exists. The only test of a balance is war, and when war breaks out, balance of power comes to an end. The real balance of power seldom exists. Yes, it may exist in paper, but practically it is very difficult to maintain balance of power. Yes, it exists, but for a short period of time. The only test of a balance is war, and when war breaks out, the balance comes to an end. War is a situation which balance of power seeks to prevent, and when it breaks out, balance of power comes to an end. War is the test of balance of power, how effective balance of power is. War is a situation which balance of power seeks to prevent. And when war breaks out, the balance of power which had been maintained will collapse or will come to an end. So the test of balance of power is war. The next point is, it is not a device of peace. Balance of power is not a primary device of peace because it admits war as a means for maintaining balance. In order to maintain balance of power, when they discuss about the techniques of balance of power, they encourage armament, at the same time they encourage disarmament, they encourage alliances, at the same time they encourage counter-alliances. So this, in a way, is about encouraging war in international relations. So it's not a primary device, it's not a device for peace. Rather, it can be, or it may be, a means to encourage war in the long run in international relations, in power politics. The name power itself suggests struggle for power in international relations. The next point is big power as the main or primary actors in international relations. In a balance of power system, the big states or powerful states are the players. The small states or less powerful states are either spectators or victims of the game. In international politics, balance of power device is a very effective device, especially during the 18th, 19th century. During First World War, Second World War, and before that, it was very effective. And this was central around the European countries. You have Germany, you have Britain, you have France, and what are the other countries? The major European countries. You have Portugal, you have Spain. All these countries are engaged in building alliances, building military warfare. The small states, Asian and African countries, were not very relevant then, as a result of which balance of power, it was very effective. It was a game of big power. In modern days, we can also state that United States of America, China and Russia, they are trying to play a balance, and this balance of power can be played by countries like India, can be played by countries like Argentina or Brazil, which are big countries. Small countries like Bhutan or Nepal does not play a big role in international relations when it comes to balance of power device. Balance of power, big power, is the major actor in international relations when in the context of balance of power. But it's not just about 2 or 3 states that plays a major role in international politics when we discuss about the device of balance of power. It states multiplicity of states as essential condition. Balance of power system operates when there are a number of major power present in the system, each of which is determined to maintain a particular balance or equilibrium in the power situation or power relation. During the First World War or Second World War, you have 2 blocks. You have the one led by United Kingdom and the other led by Germany. You have 2 allies, German-led allies and United Kingdom-led allies. You have other countries like Italy, Spain, Portugal, what are the other countries? Spain, Germany, Portugal, France, another major player. Okay, these countries, Belgium, these countries will group. Germany will try to win friends of win the ally of this country, and United States of America may do the same. So they are trying to build an alliance, and in order to build the balance, it's not just two power, it's not just three power. It's a multiplicity of state, which is an essential condition for balance of power system to exist as a device in international relations. Just give me a second. Okay. The last point is national interest is its basis. Balance of power is a policy that can be adopted by any state. The real basis that leads to this policy is national interest in a given country. Balance of power is a policy that can be adopted by any state. The real basis that leads to this policy is national interest in a given environment. So national interest is also, again, occupies an important position when we discuss balance of power. Balance of power is a policy that can be adopted by any state. Any state can adopt this policy of balance of power. They want, in order to maintain the balance, they may engage with or they may ally with other country. They, by various techniques, by means of armaments or disarmaments, by alliance and counter alliances, divide and rule policy. It is a policy which any state can use. But the real basis that leads to this policy is national interest in a given environment. State must do this. State must engage in alliance or counter alliance, which are techniques of balance of power, in order to secure their interest. Thus it says national interest is its basis. Thank you so much. This is all for today. In the next class, we shall be discussing about the various techniques of balance of power. I wish you the best. I hope you have learned something from it. I am delivering this lecture from Prologue Library, which is at the heart of Ukhrul town. If you come around Ukhrul, do visit, and we shall be very grateful. Thanking you once again.